Okay, so here's one that I've been waiting for about a year and a half now. It's the Broadway Limited Paragon 3 Big Boy. And the version that I got was, of course, the one that everybody wants. See if I can, there we go. So it's the oil tender version, and this is kind of what they think is going to be what the excursion version is going to look like. Only time will tell. And we're going to take a little bit of a look at the packaging here. I'm not one of those people that spends 5 minutes going over the packaging and 3 minutes about the model. There's plenty of other YouTube videos that you can watch where people do that. Not going to mention any names. So anyways, what you get in the box here, and I'm not really sure the purpose of these little holes. I don't really understand what that's for, but maybe just to get a grip on the top here. And of course you got your paperwork. Nobody cares about that. Some of the other things that are in the box here is this little screwdriver here, which works on the drivers. And there's some replacement traction tires in there, which is kind of funny. I don't know why you'd even need traction tires on this humongous thing, but if you want even more pulling power, you know, there you go. There's also this smoke deflector here, which I think looks horrible on here. It's definitely not something that was on the prototype. It's not something I'm going to use, but they give that to you if you don't want smoke spraying everywhere, which we'll see a little bit later, which it kind of tends to do that. And of course there's the funnel for the smoke. And in here are some parts where you can actually hook a coupler onto the front if you want to do that for things like double heading. So enough about that. On to what you really want to see here, which is the model itself. So one of the nice things about this one in comparison to other big boys that are on the market is this is all die cast. No plastic here. There is some plastic pieces on here, but the majority of it is metal. So of course it does weigh a pretty healthy amount, which is going to equivalent to some awesome pulling power. And even the tender is made of the die cast metal as well. So a couple things on here we're going to take a look at as far as the functionality of it, but some things on the outside of it I do want to take a look at first. Is this is a little bit different than a lot of other Broadway models in the way that they have the tether system set up and also the drawbar. So in some of their promotional videos for this engine, they mentioned that it was supposed to have a magnetic tether. There was a video that was dated by Broadway of August of 2015. You can find it on their page, but this engine was supposed to have a magnetic tether for the plug here. It does not. So either they couldn't get it ready in time or it just didn't work. Don't really know, but it doesn't have that. It has the traditional Broadway hookup, which is a little bit backwards from normal. Typically they have this part sticking out of the tender and you plug into the engine. Well, it's backwards on this one. You actually plug into the tender. So one thing I also did want to take a look at here is the actual drawbar system itself. Now typically there's usually just a little pin that sticks out from the bottom, but instead now they have this little rectangular piece that's here on the end, and that just plugs into a piece on the back of the locomotive, which just kind of hangs down. Probably can't see it there. What is really cool about this, and it's kind of not the first time I've saw something like this, this kind of almost borrows a page from some of the Lionel freight cars that I've saw with O-scale. So the way that this works is when the locomotive is straight, it has a much shorter reach, but the moment that you turn it, it actually becomes longer. And the purpose of that is so that when it's going around a corner, it will actually help it negotiate a tighter curve without it, banging the side of the tender into the locomotive because it's so close. And then when it gets in a straightaway, it kind of pulls the locomotive a little bit tighter to the tender. So like I said, that's a technology that's been used not new in the model railroad industry. I've saw that, like I said, on some Lionel freight cars before. And kind of that's the purpose to give it a little more distance in the corner so it can negotiate the tighter curves and then pull it together a little closer in the straightaways. So some other things we're going to take a look at here, and we're going to get it on the track and then start to operate it here. So now we have it on track here, and I want to take a look at a couple different things on here while it's on here. First of all, this is not a very easy one to put on the track. It is extremely long, and once you start to get the drivers on the track, it doesn't really move because of the traction tires being on there. One thing that I like to use to help get these on track is one of these Kato re-railers. Pretty handy, but doesn't always do the job. With these, unfortunately, because they're extremely long, sometimes you still just have to put them on track wheel by wheel. So with this being on here, the tether area here is extremely short. And unfortunately, the tether that does go between them there, the cords are kind of a little bit longer than what they actually need to be, so it does kind of hang a little bit there. One trick that I do to try to shorten that up a little bit is when I connect the plug into the tender, I actually rotate the tender around once or twice, and it kind of coils these up a little bit more and keeps them from hanging down too low, because you don't want to have them catch on a tire or something like that and possibly rip out a cable, cause a derailment, etc. So we'll go ahead and fire it up here. And just like with most Broadways here, you just give it a little blip of the throttle and it comes to life. One thing that is kind of a little bit hard to see is the actual tone of the lighting here. But it is a very realistic appearance. Unlike a lot of other big boy models, it also has the marker lights. Not many of them actually have those lit, and even there's a lot of models that don't have the number boards lit either. It does definitely have that. And we'll go ahead and move it forward a little bit here. We'll mute the sound there for a second. A couple other cool things is when you come to a stop, it actually has a operating cab light. And the moment that you move it forward, that will turn off. And one other really cool thing here on the back is it has operating rear marker lights. This is probably the first big boy that I've saw that actually has these where they actually operate on the back. A lot of times these are dummies and they're just painted red. This is the first model I've saw with those actually operating. So that's pretty cool. So we'll take a look at some of the operating features here and more of the sounds and especially the smoke here. Alright, so we got it fired up here and we're going to take a look at the smoke next. Get it going and forward here. And you can use F7 to trigger the smoke on or off. I have it off right now. It does come on pretty quick, and there's a whole lot of it. So whenever you're running this engine, I'd suggest someplace that's fairly well ventilated or someplace that you can run a fan, because it will make your room pretty smoky in a hurry. Alright, so we just hit the smoke there, and you can see it's pretty much already frothing there. So we'll go ahead and hit the whistle here. I do love that horn. And I do have the ability on my Ecos here to quill the horn. Let's give it a little speed here. Getting kind of hard to breathe in here. Oh. I forgot that I had another train on this track. And it's actually pushing the entire thing, including the locomotive, and I got a big derailment here. Oops. We'll be right back. Okay, well, we got that little catastrophe cleared up there. It's not often that you can push a 28-car train with a steam locomotive on the front of it, and it didn't even really seem to notice. Oh, wrong direction. Pretty hazy in here. So let's see what kind of speed it can reach. Full blast. $76 miles an hour. Let's give it another pass. $80. $82. Alright, looks like we've topped out there. Just going to mute the sound real quick here. And you can get a sense to how quiet the motor is. I'm running at about 3/4 full speed here, and no motor noise. Just the drive gear. That's at full speed. That is super quiet. more like a coal drag speed there, but it is whisper quiet. So you saw a little bit of its pulling power. We're going to do a little bit more of a dramatic test next. Okay, so just for testing purposes, because I'm running out of track, I put on a ton of freight cars. And since I was out of track, I decided to just throw on a MTH ES44. The unit is not powered up. It's basically just sitting on the track, and I'm going to drag it. It's pulling it. I'm in speed step 3. There's 0 slippage here. So let's add another one on. Okay, so I put another one on here. And again, these locomotives are just sitting here. These are powered units. These are not dummies. They're just sitting there. And I'm dragging them. So let's see if it does it. Oh, it's still doing it. Well, and one of the couplers went. So let's take off that freight car and put another locomotive on. Okay, so now I have 3 ES44s from MTH just sitting at the end of this fairly long train. Let's see if it does this. Oh, probably would have, but it broke apart the train there. But I think you get the point. It's not very much a question of what this engine can pull. It's more of an issue of what can it pull. I think you'll probably start breaking couplers or running out of space before you max out this train. You're just not going to find something that it's not going to pull. So I kind of just couldn't let this go, and I had to know if this would actually work. So what we're going to try here is we have, of course, the new big boy, and we have the same MTH units here. And instead of dragging them, because I already know that it's going to do that, I'm actually going to build a consist out of these 3, and we're going to have a tug of war. 3 diesels versus 1 big boy. And we'll fire them up here. Alright, let's do it. I'm going to give the big boy a little bit of juice here first. Now, that's not fair. We'll give the diesels a little bit of a pull. So, they should be going. They're spinning. They can't even pull this thing. Let's see if the big boy can pull them. We just went to speed step 16 on the diesels. Oh, look at that. Big boy is kicking some ass. Diesels can't do squat about it. Alright, so since the 3 didn't work, I got another one on there. So, big boy versus the whole damn heritage fleet. Let's give the big boy a little gas. Oh, wrong one. Oh, are the diesels finally winning? I guess so. Okay, so one last thought on this pull test here, just to put this into perspective. Each one of these MTH ES44 diesels, I pull tested one, and it was a similar situation. I ran out of track. A single one of them did 54 cars. It's one of the highest diesels that I've ever tested as far as pull power. So you figure 3 of that. This is typically a consist that would be able to pull 150 to 160 cars, if not a tad more. So there you go. The big boy probably has the potential to do 150 cars or more. I don't even know what its maximum is. I kind of almost feel like hooking another locomotive on and seeing. Maybe I'll do that. Okay, so like any good talk show, you got to have some final thoughts. So you've seen it in action, you saw some of what it can do. This engine's going to be mostly focused at people who love big articulated steam, the UP steam program, what's being done with 4014 and its restoral process. This is an excursion version of that engine, and we're not really sure yet on how accurate of a representation it's going to be. And at this point in time, that's probably my one dislike of this engine, is that I feel like we got it maybe a little bit too soon, because we're not sure about some of the details on this engine, such as on the other UP steam engines, they have silver bearing caps on there. This does not have that. I don't know if maybe the big boy isn't going to get those, or it is, and that would be something that then been inaccurate on this engine. Also on the other side, the little wheels that are on there are sometimes red on a lot of other representations of big boys that I see. On this model, they're black. But I feel like that Broadway Limited's hand was probably a little bit forced due to their competition, because it seemed like 4014 was announced to get restored, and then like the next day, Athearn had an announcement that they were going to do an excursion version, and they were the first to get theirs to market. And Rivarossi just recently also did a run of big boys. However, theirs did not reflect an excursion version of this engine. They only did just the coal-fired versions. And of course, Broadway hasn't put out a big boy in a number of years. They did one before, actually 2 of them. They did one as a blue line model, which was kind of in between Paragon 1 and 2. And they also did one as a Precision Craft Models version, which had lock sound 3.5, I believe. And both of those were an all die-cast version, but a little bit older tooling. So it's been a while since they did one. Also, with this, looking at just the performance, I think my opinion of this engine versus, first taking it out of the box, and even in the half an hour or so of making this video, my opinion of it has definitely changed. I mean, initially I probably would have given this engine an 8.5 out of 10. Now I'd have to say that's probably a solid 9 out of 10. Only because of some of the things in here that we don't necessarily know whether it's going to be accurate or not, because it is out so much earlier. And there's also an upcoming MTH version of the big boy that's coming out in the excursion version, and may try to pick that one up, and maybe decide between this one and the other one as to which I like better. And then, whichever one I don't like better, maybe I'll sell that one off. I'm not a huge big boy fan, or I do like UP Steam program, and I like Steam in general. I'm really a big fan of Broadway Limited. I love their stuff. So this engine had a lot of things that I typically look for in a steam engine. My dad's a little bit more of a big boy fan than what I am, but I still wanted to have the UP Big 3, because this was really the last one that I didn't have. I already got a 3985 Challenger. I got UP 844, which is a Rivarossi, and there will be an upcoming video at some point this year when I decide to put sound in that. It's a DCC ready model. And there will be a whole process on that, and maybe some photo ops with this one and the other 2 as well. Lastly, and what's the big deal with a lot of this and deciding to purchase is the price. These are anywhere from about, the prices. A lot of times it isn't really accurate just to look at the initial upfront price, because you have to factor in things like taxes and shipping. Safe to say that most of these are going to go around the $600 price point. Generally, if you're going up over about $620, $630, $650 even, you're probably paying a little bit too much for the engine. I picked mine up from Making Tracks. He's an online dealer. You can find him on Facebook, and I'll post the link for you. I've had really good transactions with him over the years. I put my pre-order in for this engine about a year and a half ago, just after it was announced. And finally it's here, and that whole process went very, very well. So hopefully in the future I'll have some pre-orders in as well. But we'll see how that process goes. And lastly, how does it compare to other big boys that are on the market? At the time of the making of this video, which is Super Bowl Sunday here in 2017, there's really 4 big boys that are on the market. You got Athearn and Rivarossi, which are pretty much the lower price point plastic models. And then you have the big boy, and I'm sorry, not the big boy, but the Broadway Limited version, just as you see here. And then you also have the MTH, which will be coming out sometime soon, probably in the next couple months, probably not longer than 6 months to a year. And really how they compare is, I don't particularly care for plastic steam engines, especially if they're not very well built. I don't like an engine that feels like it's falling apart in my hand. Athearn. Oh man, I had a real cough there. Anyways, I very much like a die-cast version of those engines. Anytime you can get a steam engine in metal, I really feel like that's a benefit. So that was probably my first reasoning for getting this engine. But overall, I really, really like it. Pretty happy with it. I'm starting to love it a little bit more now. I still like the Challenger a little bit more. I'm still a big fan of the Challenger, in particular 3985. So that's about all I have for this one. I'm going to post a couple links in the video there. But hope you enjoyed this one. It's a really great model. And if you're into modeling UP Steam or the excursion fleet in general, if you're a big fan of the restoration that's going on, this is kind of one that you have to have. I feel like almost any collection should have at least one good articulated steam locomotive in it. Unfortunately for most of us, we can't afford to buy too many of these because they are pretty expensive, so this isn't something that I'll have 2 or 3 of. It'd be quite some months before I'm going to be able to get anything that's in this caliber, so I'll be working on some smaller projects and kind of modifying some things that I already have. But thanks for watching. If you have any questions, post them in the comments section. I'll try to answer them as best I can. And once again, if you're looking to get one of these, look up Making Tracks on Facebook. He's got a couple more of these, and he may have access to some of the other road numbers as well. But thanks for tuning in.